Hi, this is Daniela Wolf with Bestie Life, the podcast, and this is your community to support you through the little and not so little events that make up your day-to-day life. From the I've got this moments to the I just can't moments. We are here to empower all women to find and develop the skills they need to find peace, balance, and the bliss in their busy. Through solo episodes as well as interviews with amazing women who share their journey and their story and how it works for you. I hope you find the inspirations to make you laugh, think, as well as maybe rethink what you thought you knew, and connect as we realize that we are all living similar ups and downs and don't have to do it alone. So excited for you to hear this episode, and thanks so much for joining me today. Hi, this is Daniela with Bestie Life, the podcast, and today I'm excited for you to meet Sara Blankenship. She is an MBA, a financial planner and wealth management strategist, and the Chief Operating Officer of PowHERhouse Money Coaching and Wilcox Financial Group. She is a guru about so many different areas of money, how it affects women, how it affects your life. She is also a co-author of a book. Title is Money Bitch. Yes. And so, we'll share a little bit about that, as well as, just we were chatting pre-recording as well, and really getting into just a different issue a little bit, how then, you take some of these financial things, and sometimes being the oldest daughter, how a lot of that invisible responsibility, those assumed roles can get transferred to us. And we want to definitely share about that as well. But thank you so much, Sara, for joining me today. I'm so excited to have you here.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. This is going to be so much fun.
So if you could share a little about your background, your journey, kind of what got you into wanting to throw, your passion for money into educating and supporting women.
Well, that's been a pretty windy road. Originally, this is not what I thought I would be doing. I went to school for exercise science. I was pre-med. I got my bachelor's in psychology. I think all of that kind of tied into just like wanting to help people and wanting to make an impact. And so I ended up working at a bank in college, and I really fell in love with numbers and problem solving. And so eventually I met my business partner through a networking group, and we kind of just meshed really well together. We are very yin and yang, or as we like to say, she is the wow and I am the how. I do a lot of our operations. And through that and through a lot of my background, providing a lot of education, a lot of teaching, and then just being surrounded by really incredible, powerful women, wanting to make sure that women had that confidence, that education, that ability, and that voice, especially in this industry that I'm in. It's very, very male dominated, and there weren't a lot of women financial advisors when I first started. There's more now. There's still not very many percentage wise. But Nicole, my partner, and I found over the years, like giving women a voice when it comes to finances is really important. It's not that women aren't able to invest or aren't able to do financial planning. It's that the industry hasn't typically allowed for that. I heard somebody describe it once as pale, male, and stale.
Ooh.
And so they're not the people who are typically leading this industry weren't always asking women their opinion. There was a lot of my dad's doing it for me, or your husband's doing it for you. And that's just simply not the case anymore.
Yeah. And that was definitely me, I think, for a long, long time until I was divorced and I had to figure out my own finances and that type of a thing. But I do think it is so powerful for women to take a control of their money, or to at least have an awareness. I always consider money part of our self-care. Talk about the different pillars that I teach, because it's one of those things that it might seem so separate and unrelated, but if you either don't know your finances or they're not in a healthy place, it'll affect your sleep, it'll affect your mood, it'll affect your relationships, it'll affect the way you eat, it'll affect so many different areas of your life that it is kind of one of those grounding pieces of your day.
Absolutely. I mean, money is a huge source of stress for people, whether it's stress because they don't have enough of it, or they don't understand it, or stress of having too much of it. Sometimes, where do I put it? How, I'm paying so much money in taxes. Like, how do I avoid that? I feel like I'm missing the boat here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ways that money can stress people out. And then as you grow your family, as you grow a business, then you have people who are dependent on you to be good at that money. And what if you're not? What if you skip that part and kind of we're maybe winging it along the way?
Mm-hmm.
Or if perhaps you were in a really good position and then life just throws something at you and suddenly everything changes, be it a divorce, be it a death, be it a
Mm-hmm.
job change. And so being ready for those life's curveballs is really important too.
Yeah. If you had to focus on, say, one or two things, because obviously there's so many different aspects to your financial portfolio, if you had to focus on maybe one to two parts of your money to know about, whether it's your debt, your assets, or what kind of one, two things would you start somebody with? Like, let's look at this first.
Ooh, okay. I think a budget I would
Mm-hmm.
start with. And it's like the most elementary part about money. I mean, we've all heard of budgets. We call them spend plans in our
Mm-hmm.
company. But really it doesn't matter if you make $1 million, you make $20,000. You gotta know where your money is coming from, where it's going, and what you're doing with it, right? Being really intentional with the dollars that you do have, because you could be somebody who makes a relatively small income in comparison, and you're doing a really good job saving, you're allocating money in the right places, and you're being mindful. And then you could have somebody else who anybody else would consider very wealthy. They're making a very high income, but if they're spending, over that amount, then really,
Mm-hmm.
and not really saving and not managing it well, then who at the end of the day is wealthier? That
Right.
somebody has a lot more stuff
Mm-hmm.
and maybe
Yeah.
went on a few more vacations, but are they truly building wealth, or are they just experiencing that lifestyle creep?
Yeah. And I think there's a difference we don't always think about between having money and building wealth. Those are two totally different things, right?
Yeah, building wealth is really all about being able to do what you want with when you want with whom you want. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's what wealth creation is able to do for you. You're able to have choices. And so when you don't build wealth, you may not have those choices. You might be stuck with one decision or having no decisions. And so that's where wealth creation is really, really important.
Yeah, and that's why I love that you had to start with creating a budget, because I think that's definitely the key towards not living paycheck to paycheck, but really slowly building that wealth. And it does probably take time, it's not going to be a overnight success story, but I
Yeah.
definitely can see the benefits of that. And I think looking at, when it comes to building that wealth, part of why we do these things is for our families, for our lifestyle, but I love to share too this awesome tool that you guys have. It's called the What If Binder. And it looks at wealth from the perspective of not just yourself, but your family, and kind of being able to not only share the wealth, but share what your intentions are. Because a lot of times, people have their money in a place and they don't always share what to do with it or how it's going to be used to really then continue to live your life beyond a certain point, right?
Sure. I mean, I guess that would be the second thing that to know and to think about is the What If Binder was created from my own personal life and my family's mistakes. I made that
Mm-hmm.
binder after I became my mother's caretaker and
Mm-hmm.
really learned firsthand what it is to not have prepared for those things. So
Mm-hmm.
we prepared some things, and I am deeply involved in my family. We're a pretty close, open family. So there's a lot of things that I did know about her. I couldn't even imagine what it would have been like if I lived out of state or something, or we were estranged. That it would have been a million times harder. But all the things that you don't think about, the conversations that you don't want to have,
Mm-hmm.
all of those impact your money and your finances as well. That's planning for those curveballs that can be thrown our way. In my case, my mom got sick. She had a brain aneurysm. So for a little bit, we thought she was going to die. And
Mm-hmm.
then she got better. And now she just doesn't have a great memory, and she's not good at reporting things with accuracy, I guess I could say. And so I have to verify a lot of stuff, but I was literally digging through her personal belongings, literally digging through 41 years of stuff in filing cabinets and just really having to actually rummage through someone's life to get information. And it was just because we had, you assume you have time. My mom is young. She's only early 60s when this happened, and she was active. She was full-time working. And so you assume that you have time, but that is not always the case. People typically gradually get older and decline, but it can also be sudden and immediate, and that was our case. And so but it does impact myself financially, but way more on the emotional level. My level of stress in the first couple of years doing that was absolutely through the roof. And I just really didn't know until I was really looking backwards into my life. And I didn't realize what the burden was that was on me. And I did not do a good job with self-care. I did not do a good job making sure that I was taking care of myself first. Not to mention it was in the middle of 2020, 2021.
Oh,
So,
my gosh.
there's all these other things going on too. Couple of things going on those years, but it really, really put into perspective how important it is. That phrase that everyone is beaten to death, you can't pour from an empty cup. You really do need to take care of yourself first so you can take care of others. Luckily, doing what I do financially, I was fine, but not everybody would have been in that scenario. I was paying for my mom to live in an apartment for a little while. I had to buy a plane ticket the day she got sick, which is not cheap. For someone else that might have had a really big impact. But then also it did have a pretty big impact because I was literally living in Florida when I live in New York, out of my office, working from a hospital room for 4 to 5 months, I think, flying back and forth. So it was impactful in so many ways. And then later on, just having that burden of it all being on me.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for sharing all that, Sarah, because it is, there's so much focus on our physical health, but our financial health and really having a grasp on that. And even with you as a financial planner, doesn't mean your parents have that same system in place, doesn't mean your siblings do. And so that being aware of our money and talking about it and sharing it is so important. But then also, like you were saying, all of a sudden these other responsibilities all fall on you. So it's not just about the money. It becomes taking care of her way of life, and like I said, I know we were talking in the beginning, we're both oldest daughters. And what's your experience been, I think, when it comes to some of that additional invisible load that not only as far as what we take on as women, but then what we take on from a family perspective, how that gets passed on from the mother to the daughter?
Yeah. I mean, this is it's not a new thing, but it's new to me, probably because I've been searching for it. And now the little man in my phone knows that I'm looking for it. But I have been reading about eldest daughter syndrome. It's a real phenomenon. And so it's, from what I've understood, it's essentially the eldest daughter takes on a lot of the caregiving role that a mother typically would be doing, and essentially assumes a second mother role. And so mothers oftentimes let this happen because they're thankful for the help, I think. And so we as eldest daughters just emulate a lot of that and end up being caretakers from the beginning. I mean, I remember my brother's only a year and a half younger than me, but as soon as I got my driver's license, my mom's like, okay, you can take your brother to hockey now. And so instantly I was watching my brother after school at a very young age. It was the 90s, so rules were a little different, but and so now it falls on me. Yes, I care. I do a lot of stuff for my mom. I make all of her medical appointments. I do all of her financial stuff. I being a daughter too, my mom leans on me because there's just certain things that her generation doesn't want to share with a guy because she's a
Right.
little modest about some certain things, which is humorous in itself because my mom's not really a modest person. Um, and then there, my brother is very, very helpful. He visits my mom every single Wednesday. He goes over and plays backgammon with her, and she makes him dinner. So he kind of gets the fun stuff. But I have to make a very concerted effort to be like, hey, Ben, mom has
Hmm.
5 doctor's appointments. Pick some of them.
Hmm.
And so I think also being a business owner, the assumption is, oh, well, you have a flexible schedule. You can do whatever you want. Yeah, but typically my flexible schedule looks like me working
Yeah. It's
12,
pretty
16-hour days. It's not, I'm just, running around
flexible's not
town.
empty.
Yeah, exactly. So it definitely just I have to try very hard to remind myself that he's there, he needs to help. Other family members need to help. My boyfriend helps whenever he can, and I've had friends help out too. It really takes a village,
Hmm.
especially with a parent who doesn't drive.
Yeah.
And she doesn't live with me intentionally. I'm trying to keep her as independent as possible,
Hmm.
um, so for her own well-being. But it you have to remind yourself of that. But we were talking, you and I, the other day, and joking a little bit, like, Easter. I didn't really
Yes.
say anything about Easter, and suddenly nobody has Easter plans. And I was like, why is
Yeah.
that on me to do? Um,
Absolutely.
but I told you yesterday I was planning Mother's Day not only for my own mother, but also my brother's wife because I was trying to
Hmm.
involve him, and he just let me take that ball and run with it.
Hmm.
And it's so ingrained in me just to plan everything for everybody. And part of it is my caretaking nature. Part of it is I have a busy schedule, a busy life. I want to make sure I can be there, that it happens. But really, people look to me for
Hmm.
that to happen. It's not uncommon for someone in my family to say, oh, well, what are we doing for Ben's birthday?
Yeah.
I don't know. Why is it up
Yeah.
to me to
You're not
plan?
his mom.
I'm not his mom. He's got a wife. He's got
Yeah.
a mom. He's got a dad. Somebody else could plan. He could plan it for himself. Like, but
Hmm.
it just so naturally happens, and I know that I am not alone in this. Lots of my friends are eldest daughters, and
Yeah.
we're good at multitasking. We're good at handling stuff.
Yeah, but it can be a lot when it's always assumed that's the case. I think we need our own little special, like oldest daughter club. But just
We
curiously,
do.
yeah, we'll have meetings every week. I'll bring the wine.
I love that.
The research, the reading you were doing, just curiously, did it talk at all about then when the oldest daughter starts to set boundaries? Because I know that's something since the pandemic and I couldn't host for a while, I kind of got used to and have tried to keep doing, and it's definitely had an interesting response. I'm just wondering if you read anything about that or if it had any strategies for getting yourself out of that role.
Yeah, so the one thing that I read, oh, what did it say? It said something along the lines of us eldest daughters are taking care of other people like our inner child was never taken care of.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I think that can happen in families where you're the eldest daughter and other children come after that. And suddenly the younger children, the babies, are the priority and you're kind of let go, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you're free to, you can walk and talk and feed yourself. So you're on your own. The smaller ones need the attention and the time. And so I think, that was a little sad when you hear that. So you're trying to soothe your inner child's
Yeah.
need to be taken care of. But I think setting boundaries is one of those healing moments. I think realizing that perhaps you need to be taken care of, and
Mm-hmm.
being the person who does it for yourself, because we see this so much with women and money, that they
Mm-hmm.
don't put themselves first. And I've been criticized on that comment because people say it's selfish, but
No. Oh my gosh, no.
I mean it in the way that, making sure that you have your bills paid so that if you pass away, your whole family isn't burdened
Mm-hmm.
by your debt, making sure that you do your estate documents so your family isn't scrambling, putting your own needs first so that then it's all done and taken care of, and then you can take care of everybody else. We see this so much with moms. Moms
Mm-hmm.
don't save for retirement or set aside an emergency fund because they want to make sure their kid has the best sneakers and they're playing every sport they can. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes your lifestyle just doesn't allow for that. You need to sort of balance everything. And so setting boundaries is huge. I've worked with clients who, even are paying for their adult children's stuff.
Yeah.
And, they have jobs, but you're still paying for their cell phone and their car insurance. Like, it's time to
Let things go.
it's time to let them take care of that on their own. Even younger than that, teaching them a little bit of responsibility and independence and setting those boundaries. And so I setting boundaries is something I work on all the time because I'm not good at it.
Mm-hmm.
And so when someone's like, "Oh, do you want to go to this thing?" I have to be like, is that something that is going to get me closer to my goals? Is that going to make me frantic all weekend because I overplanned and over committed to all these
Mm-hmm.
things and I didn't set aside time to do my own stuff? Or is it something I really want to go to?
Right.
And really like pausing on for a minute with that. And that can easily spill over into your finances too. People who say yes to a summer concert just because they want to go with their friends, but they hate that singer. Is that the
Yeah.
best use that ticket money to something more fun, and learning to say no to certain things, but hey, I'd love to do this other thing with you, so you don't feel like you're letting everybody down. So it's definitely a learning process.
Right. And I love how you talk about prioritizing ourselves, not just from, the fiscally responsible standpoint of planning for your retirement or different things like that. But I love to, the idea when you talk about self-care as well, like investing in yourself, like being able to prioritize your money in a way, not just from what it's going to do on the outside, but what it does for you. Investing in yourself, just like self-care is not selfish. It's so necessary. And the return on investment from that, an ROI financial term, is huge. And I don't think we
Yeah.
appreciate it because it's not as physically tangible as some of those other networks.
Yeah, it's so important. And I think you just have to reframe those thoughts when you're thinking about that. I really, really focus a lot on health and wellness for myself. One, it keeps me sane. Two, it's necessary. I need to move my body so that I can work as hard as I do every day to keep up with that aggressive of a lifestyle that we have built these businesses in. But also, my mom is pretty young to be in the health condition that she's in. I think about that all the time. I want to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that I learn from that, and making sure that I'm prioritizing my health, because that will allow me to do what I do much longer. But the emotional part of it is really important. And maybe for somebody else that's yoga, or it's meditation, or it's learning something new, getting a certification in something, reading something,
Mm-hmm.
or a class. They're investing in yourself will always pay a return.
Right. So what do you do to take care of you, if you don't mind sharing? I love hearing, different people's self-care routines.
Sure. So a year ago, this is my new soapbox that I've been standing on. About a year ago, I read The 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma.
Hmm.
And because I had found myself, I was still in the spiral of not putting myself first. And so I
Hmm.
was always like, oh, I'll go to the gym after work. I'll get on the Peloton after work. And so I kept finding myself just completely drained at the end of the day.
Hmm.
And there's so many things you can read about willpower after you've made so many decisions all day, with your decision
Hmm.
fatigue. And so I would basically get home and be like, F it, I'm doing nothing. I'm tired. I want to eat dinner. I want to go to bed. So I read this book, and in a nutshell, it's basically successful entrepreneurs get up earlier than everybody
Hmm.
else, and
Yeah.
they prioritize their day first thing in the morning. You own your morning.
Hmm.
And so I would have never described myself as a morning person. Nicole gets up at like 4 a.m. I used to stay up till like 2 a.m. and we kind of bookended the world. And so I started waking up earlier, and you can do a half hour earlier, an hour earlier, 2 hours earlier, and you can work up to it.
Right. Like the
But I
5 a.m.
started,
is not literal. We'll just say that.
yeah, I'm like a 6 a.m. club.
Right.
Yeah, because I still do work late, so I didn't want to like be ridiculous. But um I started doing that, and it just basically you move all the things that you were going to do after work before work. And so that could be read a book, it could be stretch, do yoga, go for a walk, pet the dog. I also at that same time like Googled I needed a gym like
Mhm.
5 minutes from my house where I had to make an appointment. I life
Yes.
hacked myself and was like,
That
I
that
would,
accountability.
yeah, I never miss an appointment because I run our business by appointment. And so I never want to do that to somebody else. And
Right.
so I found a gym. And so I get up early most mornings. I go to the gym, I shower, I drink coffee out of a mug and not a travel mug in the car. And so
Right.
just being able to be a little more relaxed in the morning, my mornings feel like a Sunday morning. And
Yes.
then I go to work. And
Mhm.
so then I can stay at work as long as I want. I can, teach a class after work. I can go to a networking event. I can have dinner with a friend. I can let the rest of the day go and I won't feel like work is stealing my life or
Mhm.
other people are stealing my free time because, or I'm giving it up to them because I already did everything I need to do for me first
Mhm.
thing in the morning. And so who cares what happens the rest of the day?
I love that you created your own work-life harmony, work-life flow. You found what works for you, and
Yeah.
that's fantastic because that's where, it's so individual. It's going to look different. There's no wrong way, there's no one way. So I'm so excited for you. I love when people kind of find their thing and,
Yeah.
they find what works. So that's fantastic. Another big area of self care that I don't think we talk enough about is gratitude. Sometimes we're always looking on the outside, but being able to reflect in can be so powerful as well. What would you say are maybe the two or three things you're most grateful for?
So it's funny. I also started doing gratitude as well. And being a numbers person, like, I don't know, I'm so logical about stuff. I was like, oh, yeah, gratitude, whatever. Okay, I'll do it. But it really does work. You really
It does.
do start to appreciate all of the little things so that, it's not just about the big bad things. So I'm very thankful for um, the network of people that I have around me. Again, I have my family, but I don't have a lot of family physically close to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a very large network of friends and acquaintances and business contacts. And so I am really, really well supported around me. So I'm thankful every day for that. I am thankful for, I mean, this is probably a whole other podcast topic, but I have self-labeled myself as hyper independent. I very am an incredibly self-contained, self-sufficient person, which can be also my downfall, but I'm very
Yeah.
thankful. I have built a life for myself that isn't really dependent on needing anybody else. And so I think that to me, I'm very grateful
Mm-hmm.
for because then I can allow myself to set those boundaries and have people in my life that I want there. There
Right.
is nobody I need there. And so that to me has um, been very, very important over
Mm-hmm.
the years for me.
Absolutely. It's so empowering to just have that sense of you've literally got this, and
Yeah.
you can take care of yourself. And I think that's a goal we all strive for. Absolutely. So no, I love all of those. Those are fantastic. So where can people find you, Sarah? How can they work with you guys? How can they find your book?
Sure. So our book is available on Amazon. It's a number one bestseller. You can also buy it at PowHERhouseMoney.com.
Just give a little
Uh,
little bio on it too. What's it about?
sure. So we wrote that book. It was published 5 years ago, and Nicole and I were looking for a way to break down financial planning for people because too often we heard, oh, well, I don't make enough money to work with you guys, or when I get this sum of money, I'll come work with you. And we really wanted to break it down. So it's It's 8 chapters. The first 7 of them are breaking down financial planning into little bites using real life stories of women that we had worked with, women and their families. And so just showing the different aspects of the topics that we touch on and how it impacts people in a big way. And then the last chapter is for business owners. It's sort of a bonus chapter. And so we launched that, and we have plans eventually to get that book on Audible for all of you Audible listeners. And we have an edition coming out to that probably next year as well. Nicole has an excellent Becoming PowHERhouse podcast that we've been sharing. Wilcox Financial Group is on Facebook. So you can follow us there. We also have wilcoxfinancialgroup.com if you're looking for more information on that. But we always encourage people, if they have questions, if they want to work with us, just book a discovery meeting. They're always complimentary. We love to talk to new people, hear their story, find out what they need help with, and then help them make a decision on, what aspect they want to work with first. We also have created quite a few online courses through PowHERhouse. So if somebody is more of a self-study or wants to start there, they're welcome to.
Awesome. And all those links will be live in the show notes below. But thank you so much, Sara, for taking the time to chat with us today about money, about your personal journey. Thank you for sharing all of that, because I think we all go through so many different things, and hopefully someone heard your story, found that connection, and can find that sense that you're not going through this alone. And there's definitely always people to help. But thank you so much, Sara.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much again for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please let me know any questions or comments that you have. Also, if you can please leave an Apple 5-star review so that this episode can be shared with more women. There's 2 quotes that I love. Alone we may be strong, but together we are stronger, as well as when women support each other, incredible things happen. So let's be stronger and incredible together, as well as maybe just have some fun along the way. Thanks so much, and talk to you soon. Bye.